What's the strangest date you've ever been on? It's 2001, so VHS and chill at this girl's dorm room. My first time over there, and there is this giant bear on the bed. Like, got the softball in the milk jug at the carnival first try tier bear. It occupies 50% of the surface area. I say, whoa, how'd you score that bear? Her, I don't know. Me, what? Her, I don't know. A few minutes go by. Me, you don't know. Her, yeah, me. Okay, look, it's okay if it's from an ex. I don't care if you stole it. I'll believe almost anything you tell me at this point. But there is no way in hell you're going to tell me you don't know where that giant bear is from. I had a stuffed dinosaur a quarter of that size that I got when I was 6, and I could tell you every detail about how I got it. Her, well, good for you, but I don't know how I got it. Are you going to be able to let this go? Me, looks at bear, bear stares back. Eyes full of secrets. I don't think I can. Walk out. That's an interesting reason to turn down someone. This is one of the most appropriate reasons I've seen. Something is up here. She's full of secrets involving a massive stuffed bear. That's red flag number 1 in my book. Well, this one time I took my date to dinner at what seemed to be a front for some type of illicit activity. We had just moved to a new area, and we wanted to check out the local shops and restaurants. While we were wandering, we stumbled into a tiny Italian place. Back home, the small hole-in-the-wall restaurants always have the best food, so we were excited to give it a shot. Big curtains were covering the entry windows, so we had no idea what was inside until we trudged through the door. Inside, we were met with emptiness and silence. We both immediately thought the store was closed, and I spun around and searched for the store hours posted somewhere on the door. While I was looking, we heard a heavy thud as a young woman barked, "I'll be right with you." She appeared, greeted us confusingly, and asked us what she could do for us, which looking back is probably a red flag. But we were naive and hungry, so we said that we were there for dinner. She looked puzzled, but motioned us to follow her to a booth right by the entrance. She then disappeared into the back, and we heard a muffled conversation between our hostess and a man. The consensus was basically that they were not prepared for us or didn't know how to proceed. I asked my date if she wanted to split, but she insisted we stay for the story. The square-shaped balding man burst through the kitchen door with 2 glasses of water for us, and in a very loud and deep voice he explained that it was his birthday, and that we would eat what he felt like making us. We wholeheartedly agreed. We waited around 30 minutes and he again returned with 3 large bowls of spaghetti and meat sauce. He placed 2 bowls in front of us, and 1 next to me for himself. He sat with us and ate. We had a light and awkward conversation with him, and he kept asking us jokingly if we were cops or with the health board. He was incredibly nervous about us, so my date kept cracking corny puns or awful jokes because he would forcibly laugh at anything designed with humor. We talked about our lives, the cities we lived in, our pets. He had a teacup chihuahua named Princess, and his wife. He decided that we were good people and didn't charge us for the meal. We wished him a happy birthday. He hugged us and we went on our way. Easily the best spaghetti I've ever had in my life. The restaurant unfortunately no longer exists. Are you sure you didn't wander into an Italian couple's home? Yeah, sounds like some random person's house. I mean, geez, even a restaurant front should be prepped to make food. Otherwise, that's one of the worst fronts ever. Matched on Tinder with a guy who decided that a great story to tell in detail on our date was about the time he fisted a lady and tore her up so bad inside that she was bleeding profusely and had to go to the hospital to get stitches. After he was done telling the story, he told me he was glad I told him I was super squeamish, because now he wouldn't try to show me pictures of all the blood that he had saved on his phone. He also said that he had been on well over 100 Tinder dates and I had managed to land in his top 10. I never talked to him again. There's nothing like Ask Reddit topics to make a guy feel like an absolute steal. I was a waitress, and I had a table of 2 guys. One was very cute and flirting with me, and we exchanged numbers. He asked me out, and I said yes. I didn't really go out much, and he didn't tell me where we were going out or what we were doing. Me being young and dumb at the time thought that would be exciting. So he drives me a pretty good way away from my house, and we go to an elementary school. I was really confused. Apparently, he was a basketball coach and they had a game that night. So at this point, I notice I have no reception on my phone and I really wanted to leave, but I thought maybe we were going somewhere fun afterwards, so I gave up trying to call someone to rescue me. I sat and watched this game right next to this dude's mom. Yeah, this was going well. Finally, the game ended, and we go to get in the car. His friend from the restaurant gets in the front seat, making me sit in the back. I am super uncomfortable with this, and I ask what's going on. They basically tell me they want to run a train on me. Nope, screw that. Take me home now. I got lucky. They moped and took me home. I was terrified. That was horrible. Hey, if you want to run a train on a girl, let her have the front seat. It's only polite. A hot girl from class randomly walked into my dorm room. The door was normally open during the day. She was in the building visiting a friend and saw me playing the guitar, so she came in and started flirting. She asked me to meet her at a nearby bar that night at 10, so I agreed. I get there at 10 and she introduces me to her boyfriend. I finished my drink and went to the bar my friends were at. Actually, she wanted to show her boyfriend how a man should be. Met a girl online, talked it up, and while she seemed a bit immature, thought, heck, why not? She casually mentioned she really liked pigs. What she meant to say was she was obsessed with pigs. Obsessed. Go to one of the best restaurants in the area for a first date. Bad idea. Sometimes pictures are from someone 10 years prior, or the person hides things, etc. But that wasn't the problem. She looked just like her pictures, but I didn't even have to have seen her first, because everything else gave it away. She came in a giant t-shirt that had a sparkly pink pig on it. Earrings? Pig earrings. Bracelets? Yep, pig bracelets. I swear her dad might have been Homer Simpson. She had this headband on with a little pig on it. Her shoes? Yep, pigs on the front of her toes. But best of all, she had a giant, or at least it seemed giant, pink purse with the face of a pig on it. You could not stop seeing it once you did. And I'm sure everyone else in this nicer/classier restaurant saw it too. I felt overdressed with her, but underdressed with every other couple there. It was beyond embarrassing. For some reason, which I have to convince myself was politeness, not stupidity, we still had dinner. But Reddit, it was the fastest damn dinner I've ever had at a sit-down place. I practically blurted out something about how, oh, you really do like pigs, which she started giggling, or oinking, and going on about how everything she has is pig-themed. Then she wouldn't stop, and it became the dominant part of the conversation. There were a dozen other things that made it a train wreck, but these were the clinchers to a solid 0 out of 5 date. I remember afterwards consoling a friend of a friend because I had to tell someone, and then I promptly buried this as my worst date. I've posted this before because it's so weird. I went for a meal with this girl I met through a dating app, and it was going really well. We started talking about movies, and then we decided to go to the cinema to go watch Inception. She said there was a cinema nearby, but I didn't know the area at all. So I used the GPS on my phone and she held it and directed me. Once we got there, we started walking inside and I realized I didn't have my phone in my pocket. I said I must have left it in the car and started to walk back to get it. She was trying to get me to leave it and saying that we would miss the film, but the phone was only about a week old, so I was really paranoid about it. We checked the car for about 10 minutes, but we couldn't find it. I asked her to check her jacket and her bag, but she said it wasn't there. A couple parked next to us, so I asked them to ring my number because I couldn't find it. It started to ring, and it was obviously coming from my date's handbag. She took it out and said she must have missed it. I thanked the couple and locked my car, and as I turned back around, she was walking the other way. I ran to catch up and ask what was going on, but she was very dismissive and was barely talking. That's when I realized it wasn't an accident and just left her to walk home alone. I have a strong suspicion she's A, done this before, and B, would have excused herself during the movie and bolted then. Highest probability of a clean escape. Thieves, male and female, use dating apps for just this reason. If it would have worked, she would have left during the movie to use the washroom and never returned. Smart OP dodged a bullet. I went on a date with a guy in my apartment block only to see his disappointed face when my girlfriend called me on the way home. I realized he'd assumed I was gay and that I'd assumed he was just a friendly guy who wanted to hang out. This is my favorite in this thread. Everyone is so innocent in making it weird. I always kind of wonder if this is happening to me when I'm hanging out with a new guy friend. In fact, I had a roommate after college who I thought for a while may have been gay. He just came off that way at first, with lots of girlfriends, very peppy, friendly, think golden retriever turned human. Eventually, he told me about his girlfriend with whom he had a long-distance relationship. This story isn't as strange as some, but it's my strongest. A guy I'd met a few times contacted me and asked me on a date. I had never been asked on a date before and accepted despite thinking him a little strange and having heard some odd things about his family. He picked me up and everything seemed good. We decided to grab a pizza and eat it in the park. When we went to purchase the pizza, it turned out he worked there and had all his coworkers come out to gawk at me. This guy wasn't very popular with the ladies and seemed to be proving he had a date. I'm bad in social situations and got super uncomfortable, but didn't know how to bail, and we went to the park. It was very awkward, and I wanted to go home by the end of it. We mostly just sat in awkward silence and tried not to hear each other's chewing. I thought I was going home, but he decided he wanted to stop at his house. I agree because I honestly did not know how to disagree. First dating experience. His home turned out to be with his parents. We were both 18 to 20. This wouldn't have been so bad had they not all 10 of his siblings. I don't remember exactly how many siblings he had, and his parents were home and wanted to meet me. They weren't just a big, nice family, they were very religious and looked like they belonged to a cult. They all had long hair and homemade clothing. They were homeschooled. The mom said hello, then the dad came in and nobody was allowed to say a word while he questioned me on what I and his son had done on our date and when the family would be seeing me again. It was terrifying. My date showed me his pet turtles, which were really cute, and finally drove me home. He tried to kiss me after, making it clear he thought we were in a relationship after one date. At this point, I almost ran from the car. I messaged him later on explaining that I was only looking for friends at this point in time. Feeling pity on this one. Like, he's so socially inept because of his kooky family sheltering him that he couldn't understand the date was a disaster and he wasn't with you. But he wasn't bad enough to go off the deep end and profess his undying love for you like some of the guys that you read about on here, so there's hope for him. Hope he made it. He was a nice guy. He meant well, but yes, he was very isolated. I grew up in almost the same situation and have a lot of social problems because of it. I do feel for him and I hope he's doing well. Got set up on a date with a pretty awkward guy. He picked me up in his car, which was sort of cool considering we were in high school, but oh my god, he was a nervous driver. So nervous, in fact, that he accidentally ran a red light, lost his crap, and ducked into a residential area to sit at the end of a cul-de-sac, freaking out, thinking the cops were coming. I tried to explain that if a cop had seen him, we'd have already been pulled over, but the dude was too freaked out. I don't even remember anything else about the date, just that. It was uneventful, and I never really talked to him again because we had nothing in common. He probably just wanted to wait until his stars went back down to 0. Meet a guy online. He asks me to dinner at a tapas place. I agree because I'm bored and he seems nice enough. We'd been texting for a couple of weeks and it seemed chill. I get there and he's late to meet me. Looks nothing like his profile, about 100 pounds heavier, has bad skin, and is just dressed really sloppily, but I told myself not to be shallow. We are looking over the menu, which was fantastic by the way, and I suggest a few things I'd like to eat, and he begins saying he doesn't eat sweet potatoes, aioli, capers, salmon, radish, arugula, kale, balsamic vinegar, etc. Basically all ingredients except for bread, meat, and cheese, and he won't eat any food if that's what I order. I tell him to get what he wants then, and I'll get something for myself. We get our food, and he is the messiest eater I've seen in my life, getting crumbs and food bits all over his shirt and the whole table, and it was just painful to watch. He also kept insisting I try his food, but I'm a pescatarian and lactose intolerant, so I declined, at which he began berating me and my food choices and being a picky eater. They clear our table for dessert, and he then gets down on one knee and tries to give me a promise ring because he felt a special bond with me and wanted to pledge his life to me after having met online a few weeks ago. Yeah, no thanks. Politely as I could, I declined, to which he started calling me expletives in the middle of the restaurant and then ugly crying and storming out. So I had to pay for the terrible date he asked me on because I didn't want to accept a pre-engagement ring. WTF? Where do you and other female posters here meet those guys? I thought I was weird, but this is some next level crap. I met a guy from OkCupid. The first time we met up in a public place and just had a casual chat. It wasn't a horrible date, but it wasn't very memorable either. I decided to give him another try because it could have just been nerves. On the second date, he invited me over to his place. I knew he lived with his parents, but I kind of assumed they'd be away. They weren't away. They kept coming into the lounge room and giving us iced tea and chips whilst he played Xbox in his track pants, no shirt, and I sat there awkwardly watching. He didn't really speak much to me. It was 11 p.m. and he was in his 30s. I read all these and it really just makes me think I'm an exemplary man when really I'm just respectful and normal. How do people actually think this is how you date? His parents probably are pressuring him to make some attempt at a normal life. so he dragged her over in a poor attempt to look like he is trying. I mean, that's what I'd assume. Met a girl online and decided that we should meet for a date. I'm female, by the way. This sort of matters. I arrived in a strange town that I didn't know, so I relied on her to show me around. She took me to a youth LGBT group. I thought we were staying. Didn't mind. It's a bit odd, but I was newly out. Turns out it was just a chance for this girl to show off that she did in fact have a date. They didn't believe her apparently, and I existed. It was really awkward. When the youth group leader came in, she stood up, grabbed my hand and said, "Later, bitches," and we walked out. Went to a bar for a drink, and then on for some food. It wasn't going well. She was very odd, but I was new to all of this and in a town I didn't know. Once we'd eaten, she said, "Oh, I just need to see a mate who's staying at XYZ hotel." Fine. Went to see this friend. Oh no, she'd booked a hotel room for us for the night. Yeah, I left pretty quickly after that. I may have been inexperienced, but I wasn't about to be tricked into a night in a rough hotel. No, thank you. During my freshman year in college, I had a crush on a girl from my high school. When I asked her out, she informed me that she only dated women. I'm a male. She insisted that we were still friends, she just didn't roll that way. She offered to be my wingman, and I gladly took her up on the offer. A few weeks later, she sat me up on a semi-blind date with one of her friends. We'll call her Monica. The three of us met at Arby's because we were fancy, and my friend tried playing matchmaker. Pimp Ninja Man loves theater, and so do you, Monica. Monica loves music, and so do you, Pimp Ninja Man. The date was going fine, so my friend decided to leave Monica and me alone. We talked a bit more and decided to go see a movie. I didn't have a car at the time, so I hopped in Monica's passenger seat and we went on our way. That's when crap got weird. About 2 minutes after leaving Arby's, Monica receives a phone call. She says it's her roommate and she needs to answer it. She picks up the phone and I hear a man's voice. I was a bit surprised, but it's not too unusual for a girl to have a guy for a roommate. Monica and her roommate get into some kind of argument, and she pulls over to a gas station. Another call pulls in right beside us. Again, I didn't think anything of it at the time. Monica turns to me and says, "I need to go talk to my roommate. Just wait here for a minute." I assume she just wants to be on the phone in private, but what happens next will shock you. Monica gets out of the car and goes to talk to the driver of the car that pulled in next to us. This is where I start to freak out. What are the odds that her roommate happened to pull up right beside us? I hear a bit of yelling and then I start thinking about an escape plan. At this point, Monica opens my car door and says, "Hey, I'm really sorry to do this, but my roommate is going to have to take you home." Now, this is the part of the movie where someone in the audience screams, "Don't you go with him now. That's how you get killed. People always go with the strange man thinking everything will just be a-okay." I wish I could say I got smart, said no thank you, I'll just walk, and went home, but I didn't. With some combination of confusion and curiosity, I get out of Monica's car and head into the passenger seat of this stranger. We're in my hometown, so I know if he goes any direction he's not supposed to, I can just bail out of the car and run to freedom. The guy was pretty big. I was 6'2" at the time, and he was significantly bigger than me, if that tells you anything. I don't remember his name, but we'll just call him Ross. Anyway, Ross starts driving back to my dorm, and we're sitting in awkward silence for most of the trip. Eventually, he says, "So how do you know Monica?" I knew something was fishy, so I wasn't about to say that we were on a date. I just say, "Oh, we have a mutual friend," and hope Ross doesn't get suspicious. He just nodded his head and kept driving. Apparently Ross was resolving some anger in his head, because out of nowhere he starts talking as if we were in the middle of a much more personal conversation. "Yeah, a lot of people at our church are upset that Monica and I live together. I think they're just assuming we're having sex all the time or something. It shouldn't even matter since we're engaged. But it's still annoying to hear stuff like that, you know?" I just nod my head and realize what just happened. Apparently my friend set me up on a blind date with an engaged girl and her fiance came and picked me up to take me home. I was silent the rest of the night. I told Ross the wrong dorm so he wouldn't know where I lived, and I got out of the car and just walked around campus for a bit. It was definitely the strangest date I've ever been on. Maybe they were on a break and Ross hadn't got the message. I was half convinced OP's story was going to turn into something friends-related. I was kind of disappointed when it didn't. Got asked out by a girl I knew and was sort of interested in, but didn't really know all that well. We went to an open-air jazz concert. Not really my thing, but sure. Once there, she immediately was all over me, hugging, sitting on my lap, etc. Things were going great, or so I thought. It was at that point when things started getting weird. Several band members were giving us strange looks from stage while playing their jazz music. One piano player was mouthing things in our direction. but I couldn't make out what he wanted. People were rude to me for no reason whatsoever while getting drinks. Long story short, my date knew just about all the people there and wanted to get back publicly at her very large boyfriend for cheating on her. Don't hate on me, I'm just an innocent guy. Awkward ending. I met both later that evening at the train station and she pretended not to see me. I started talking to a girl I came across on a dating site. We made plans to meet about 1 week after we began talking. I ended up canceling the plans a few hours before we were supposed to meet, as I had something come up. Told her I was unavailable the following day as well, as I do not live in the same city. A few hours later, she responded, asked me if I wanted to take a road trip to another city a few hours west of where I'm located. She just wanted a co-pilot to keep her company. I agreed, partially because I felt bad for changing plans at the last minute the previous day. I was skeptical. I'd never just taken a random road trip with some girl I hadn't met before. She picked me up in the morning. Not too awkward at first, easy conversation for the most part. Within 10 minutes of being on the road, she needs to pee, but can't wait for the next gas station. She abruptly pulls over on the side of the highway and does her business. Okay, I'm thinking, whatever, you gotta go, right? The place we were traveling to is about 200 kilometers from where I lived. Let's just say we had to make another 5 stops, 2 more on the highway and 3 gas stations before we arrived at our destination. Yes, I started to count after the 3rd stop. Anyways, I'm definitely thinking this girl has some kind of issue. That's a lot of pee breaks in such a short amount of time. Okay, so I was told she needed to pick a few things up in the city. So it wasn't just things, it was her 74-year-old grandmother, whom I would shortly be meeting for lunch, along with a few other members of her family. I said to her, "You're kidding, right?" Well, she wasn't. At this point, I did not have much of a choice considering she is my ride back home. Long story short, it was awkward as heck. Her aunt, a cousin, and some family friends with her grandma. It was like a family reunion. I felt like I was in some kind of dark comedy show and I had to improvise bullcrap. Anyways, made it back home after 4 more pee breaks and having to pretend/lie to her grandmother about actually knowing anything about this girl. Yeah, I didn't talk to her again. How was that for awkward? This happened twice to me. I'll be talking to a girl and then I'll ask her out, specifically using the wording, "We should go get a drink sometime," and they'll agree. And we'll go to a bar with a great selection of drinks and I'll order one, and at this moment they'll tell me they don't drink alcohol. Like, why wouldn't you have said it before? We'd have gone to a coffee place or an ice cream place or something, because now I feel stupid getting wasted while you're drinking peach juice. Turns out some women are just as socially awkward as guys. Yeah, I figured I should take it as a compliment. They're so into going on a date with me that the actual date doesn't matter, but still, come on. Second date. Went zorbing. For anyone who doesn't know what it is, you get strapped into a giant inflatable ball and rolled down a hill. It was awful. The ball wasn't inflated properly, so every rotation you hit the floor, it hurt. It was wet, so there was water inside the ball, and we had to jump out at the bottom of the hill into a puddle, so wet sock galore. The whole experience was horrible. Gave us something to talk about though. Been together for nearly 4 years. You. That was the worst date ever. Them. You want to go out again? You. Yes. That reminds me of my friend's mom watching Sin City. She does not like violence at all. That is the vilest, disgusting piece of trash of a movie I've ever seen in my life. My friend stops the movie. What are you doing? Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a story you'd like to share, please do so in the comments below. We'd love to hear about it. Then be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you know when our next video is available. For more videos just like this one, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.